You audition for the lead. That's a joke, right? The harsh laugh echoed across the high school auditorium as Marcus stood frozen on stage, script trembling in his hands. Sweat dripped from his temple, not because of the lights, but the heat of humiliation burning in his chest. His eyes locked with Miss Hollins, the drama teacher, who simply pursed her lips and scribbled something in her notes. One, I think I can do it, Marcus stammered, trying to steady his voice. No offense. Marcus, came the voice of Brandon, the class favorite and star quarterback, who already had one foot in every play the school had ever put on. But theater's not really your thing. A snicker rippled through the students seated in the front rows. Miss Holland cleared her throat. Thank you, Marcus. We'll be in touch. He knew what that meant, the same way you know when someone says maybe but means never. Marcus climbed down the steps, face burning, past students who avoided eye contact like his failure was contagious. He clutched the script to his chest like it could still protect him somehow. It couldn't. Behind him, someone whispered, he should stick to cleaning up after rehearsal. That hurt. Not because it was unfair, but because it was true. Marcus's mom worked nights at the diner, and he spent his afternoons helping janitor Mr. Reed clean classrooms. It paid little, but it helped with bills. He shoved the script into his backpack and left before they announced the cast list. He didn't need to see it. He already knew. Later that night, Marcus sat on the rooftop of his apartment building, knees drawn to his chest. The city lights below, flickering like tiny stages he'd never stepped foot on. His mom found him there. Hey, baby, she said softly, holding out a steaming cup of chamomile tea. You okay? They laughed at me, Marcus whispered. Said I didn't belong up there. She sat beside him, wrapping her arm around his shoulders. Let me tell you something, she said. When I was your age, I auditioned for a solo at church. The choir director told me I sang like a dying cat. Marcus looked at her, surprised. What did you do? I sang anyway, every Sunday. Loud, off-key, with my whole heart. Until one day. I didn't sound so bad. He gave a dry chuckle. I'm serious, she said, squeezing his shoulder. You don't let anyone tell you who you are. You decide that. He stared at the skyline. They said I wasn't theater material. Well then, she said, maybe Broadway's waiting for someone like you. He smiled, but only for her. Marcus didn't return to drama club the next week. He spent his afternoons with Mr. Reed instead, pushing mop buckets through the hallways while the echoes of rehearsals danced down from the auditorium. He didn't want to hear Brandon deliver the lines he'd dreamed of speaking, but he still listened. Every pause, every mistake, every line delivery. He took mental notes if he couldn't be on stage. He'd learn everything from the shadows. One day, as he was buffing the linoleum outside the theater, a voice called out to him, You've got a good ear. You know, he turned. It was Mr. Dempsey, the elderly man who ran the lighting board. Most students didn't talk to him. He was quiet, odd, always scribbling in his leather-bound notebook. Marcus wiped his hands on his pants. Sir, I've seen you. Listening, watching. You're studying them. I'm not, Marcus hesitated. I'm just cleaning. Dempsey stepped closer. His eyes, pale blue and sharp as glass, studied Marcus carefully. You've got something. Timing, presence. It's in how you move. You don't walk like a janitor's son. You walk like someone trying to disappear. That's what real actors do when they're not on stage. Marcus looked away. Doesn't matter. They already picked their star. School plays or practice. Real theater, Dempsey tapped his temple, happens in the cracks. Marcus squinted. What do you mean? I mean, Dempsey said, looking left and right before pulling a small, worn flyer from his jacket pocket. You ever heard of the East Side Underground? Marcus shook his head. Come Friday, 8 p.m. Don't tell anyone. He tucked the flyer into Marcus's palm and disappeared back into the shadows. Friday night, Marcus stood in front of a graffiti-covered warehouse under the freeway. The door creaked open with a long groan, and inside was a stage, not a school stage. A real one, wooden, worn, gritty. The air smelled like sweat, paint, and dreams. No curtains, no microphones, just passion. People of every age, color, and background gathered around. Some recited Shakespeare. Others delivered monologues they'd written themselves. No auditions, no judgment, just raw performance. When it was Marcus's turn, his knees trembled. He pulled the old school script from his backpack, yes, the same one, and stepped onto the small platform. He looked at the faces staring back at him, not laughing, not smirking, just waiting. Marcus took a deep breath. Do not go gentle into that good night. His voice shook, but grew stronger. He poured everything into each word, his rejection, his pain, his fire. When he finished, there was silence. Then, thunderous applause. Dempsey was in the back, nodding slowly. Weeks turned into months. Every Friday, Marcus performed at the East Side Underground. He learned from misfits and professionals alike, former Broadway cast-offs, retired directors, struggling playwrights. They sharpened his instincts, trained his voice, taught him rhythm, dot, subtext, dot, movement. No one knew he was just a janitor's son. Here, he was just Marcus, the boy who bled truth every time he spoke. He wrote his own monologues, studied accents, practiced Shakespeare in front of mirrors and mop buckets. At school, he still cleaned, still kept his head down, but his soul was soaring elsewhere. Then one night, after his performance of Hamlet's To Be or Not to Be, a woman approached him backstage. You don't belong here, she said. Marcus flinched. I'm sorry. She held up her hand. I meant that as a compliment. My name is Evelyn Drake, casting director, Broadway. We're in town doing preliminary scouting for a revival of A Raisin in the Sun. I don't usually attend places like this, but someone told me there was a fire here. I think it's you. Marcus's breath caught. You're from Broadway. She nodded. We're holding private auditions next month in New York. Come. No guarantees. Just a chance. He blinked. I can't afford the trip. She paused, then reached into her coat and handed him a card. Come anyway. He looked down. Drake and Moore Casting, NYC. Marcus told his mom everything. I don't even know if I can get there, he said. She didn't flinch. We'll find a way. She picked up extra shifts, sold her grandmother's jewelry. Mr. Reed gave him an envelope with all the cash he'd saved in 10 years. For the kid who always listened. Even Dempsey handed him a one-way Greyhound ticket and a tight hug. New York was brutal. The buildings towered like gods. The streets roared. The people moved like they were late for Judgment Day. Marcus had never felt smaller. But inside the studio where Evelyn Drake waited, he found his voice again. The waiting room was filled with professionals, trained actors with headshots, resumes, agents. Marcus had none of that. Just a backpack and the script he had once been laughed off the stage for reading. When his name was called, he stepped into the spotlight and gave everything. When he finished, there was silence. Evelyn looked at her assistant, nodded. 2 weeks later, back in his tiny apartment, Marcus got the call. You got it, Evelyn said. He fell to his knees. You'll be understudying first, she added. But keep showing up like you did in that room. And I promise, the stage will be yours. The Broadway theater was unlike anything he'd ever seen. The lights were brighter, the stakes higher, but Marcus was ready. He watched the lead every night, studied his movements, understood his breath patterns, absorbed the show. Then, one night, the lead fell sick, and Marcus stepped in. Standing in the wings, dressed in full costume, he whispered to himself, You, audition for the lead. That's a joke, right? He smiled, then stepped into the spotlight. The crowd watched, silent, waiting. He spoke, and when he did, the walls trembled. He was no longer the janitor's son. He was the story. The lights hit him like the sun, blinding, hot, unforgiving. Marcus stood center stage, chest rising and falling in rhythm with the silence of the audience. In front of him sat over 1,200 people, rows of suits, dresses, eyes, phones, reviewers, theater elites, and somewhere in the darkness, maybe someone from his past. His mouth opened, and the first line came out like a spark. controlled, measured, then the second, then the third. And by the time the fourth line left his lips, Marcus was gone. Only the character remained. He moved across the stage like he had lived there for years. When the spotlight shifted, he shifted with it. When his co-star raised her eyebrow, he caught the cue. When the moment of silence arrived, the one that demanded more than words, Marcus breathed life into it, and the entire room breathed with him. Then came the final monologue. He stood alone, and he said the words not like an actor reading a script, but like a man telling the story of his life. I was never supposed to be here. Not in this suit, not in this city. They said I wasn't enough, that I didn't belong, that my voice was too small, my dreams too loud. But I kept walking, one step, one word, one breath at a time. As he spoke, he didn't just see the audience. He saw the janitor's closet, the old script crumpled in his backpack, Mr. Reed's hands, rough and giving, his mother's eyes, tired but proud, Miss Holland's scribbled notes, and Brandon's smirk. And with a final breath, he delivered the last line. And now, I stand here, not because they believed in me, but because I never stopped believing in myself. Blackout. Silence. Then an eruption. Applause like thunder. Marcus stood frozen as the cast gathered beside him, ushering him into the curtain call. Hands clapped his back. Flowers hit the stage. Cameras flashed. And in the very front row, he saw her, Miss Holland, mouth open, frozen. Next to her, Brandon, now a college freshman, staring in disbelief. They had no idea he would be here. Backstage, Evelyn Drake rushed toward him, eyes wide. Marcus, you just made history. That was more than a debut. That was a coronation. The director burst in. If our original lead wants his job back, he'll have to wait. Marcus, you're not the understudy anymore. You're our lead. Marcus didn't cry. Not yet. Not until he pulled out his phone and called his mom. She answered immediately. Baby. They stood up. Mom. The whole damn theater stood up. And then he cried. The next morning, the New York Times ran the headline, Unknown Teen Delivers Star-Making Performance in Broadway Revival. The article told the story of a boy from the Bronx. No agent, no fame, just grit. Reporters called. Interviews flooded in. Ellen wanted him. Fallon, too. Talent agencies sent flowers and business cards. Marcus stayed humble. He did every show with the same fire as his first. But he couldn't shake one thing. The school. The memory. He didn't want revenge. He wanted truth. So when the school called, inviting him to speak at the next assembly, he said yes. The auditorium looked smaller now. Miss Holland stood off to the side, face unreadable. Brandon wasn't there, but the rest of the school was. Students, teachers, janitors, all eyes on him. Marcus stepped onto the stage, cleared his throat. 2 years ago, he began. I auditioned right here. I remember standing on this stage, thinking maybe I had a shot, and I remember being laughed at. The room fell silent. I remember being told I didn't have it, that I should stay in the background, that I didn't belong. His voice cracked, but he held steady. But I also remember something else. I remember a janitor who believed in me, a stranger who gave me a stage, a mother who gave me everything. He looked toward the custodial staff in the corner. Mr. Reed wiped his eyes. And now, I stand here, not to brag, but to say, if you've ever felt invisible, small, rejected, know that it doesn't mean you aren't enough. It just means you haven't found your stage yet. Applause broke out, not polite applause, real applause. Miss Holland approached him afterward. I misjudged you, she said. He looked at her. Everyone makes mistakes, Marcus said calmly. Some just echo louder. Broadway wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Marcus went on to write his own play based on his life, Backstage Boy. It opened off Broadway, then quickly got picked up for a full national tour. He starred in it, directed it, lived it, and when it hit Los Angeles, a scout approached him with an offer for a film adaptation. Marcus only had one condition. I get to cast the janitor. The idea came to Marcus one night after a performance, sitting alone in his tiny dressing room. The bouquet of roses was still fresh on the counter. His reflection in the mirror wore a tired smile. The theater was quiet now, the applause just a memory, but his heart still beat with the rhythm of something unfinished. He opened his notebook and began to write. Not a script, not yet, just moments. The first time he saw the script that changed everything, the hallway echoing with laughter. Mr. Reed's quiet kindness, Dempsey's mysterious guidance, his mother handing him tea on the rooftop. The feeling of his name not being on the cast list, painful, honest, and real. Within weeks, those moments turned into scenes. Scenes into acts, acts into a full story. He titled it Backstage Boy. Not because he resented being in the background, but because that's where he was forged. When he pitched the script to Evelyn Drake, she stared at him for a long, thoughtful moment. This is raw, she finally said. Not polished, not conventional, but it's honest. And honesty sells. She slid the script back across the table. You should direct it. Star in it too. Marcus's eyes widened. Are you serious? Dead serious, she said. But do it your way. Don't Broadway it up. Keep the edges. Let the silence speak. He nodded slowly. I want to cast real people. No big names. No plastic faces. Good, she said. That's exactly what this story needs. Rehearsals weren't easy. Most of the cast were first-timers. A woman who ran a laundromat played his mom. A teenage poet from Harlem played young Marcus. The janitor role. That went to Mr. Reed himself, retired now, but still standing tall. I'm not an actor, Mr. Reed said when Marcus offered. You never had to be, Marcus replied. You were already the part. They rehearsed in community centers, rooftops, and basements. And when Backstage Boy opened off Broadway, it was electric. Critics cried. Audiences lined up for hours. The New Yorker called it a revolution in storytelling, not a play, a confession. Soon after, the producers came knocking. Hollywood, Netflix, SS Studios. They all wanted rights, but Marcus hesitated. He didn't want it to become another glossy underdog tale with whitewash lessons and a neat Hollywood ending. He wanted truth. So when he met with producers in Los Angeles, he told them, I get final cut. I choose the cast, and I tell it my way or it doesn't happen. Most walked away. One didn't. A young producer named Jalen Stone, only 26, who'd grown up in Atlanta and knew the sting of rejection, said, let's make this real. Filming began 6 months later. Marcus played the adult version of himself, the actor playing teenage Marcus, a 15-year-old named Tyler who'd never acted before, but had the same haunted fire in his eyes. During the first table read, Tyler looked up and asked, Is this really your story? Marcus nodded. It's mine, but it's yours now too. The night before the premiere, Marcus sat in a hotel room in Los Angeles, staring out at the glowing skyline. His mom called. You ready? She asked. I'm scared, he admitted. You, the boy who turned mop buckets into microphones. He laughed. You've been ready, baby. They're just catching up. The film premiered to a standing ovation, Oscar buzz, talk show tours. A school in the Midwest used the film in their curriculum about perseverance. Then, one night, he received a message from Brandon. Hey, Marcus, I watched the movie. Didn't think I would, but I did. And I saw myself. Not in a good way. I'm sorry, truly. We were stupid kids. You didn't deserve what we did to you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. No pressure, just respect. Marcus stared at the message for a long time, then typed, back, thanks. That means more than you know. We all play roles. Some of us just learn too late which ones matter. A year passed. Marcus stood on another stage, this time at the Academy Awards. Backstage Boy was nominated for Best Original Screenplay and Best Actor. He wore a black suit, clean, cut, calm, but inside, still that same kid, holding a trembling script in a school auditorium when they called his name. He didn't cry, not right away, but when he got to the microphone and saw his mother standing beside Mr. Reed in the front row, he broke. My name is Marcus, he began, voice cracking. I used to mop floors so other kids could rehearse plays. Tonight, I stand here not because I'm talented, but because people believed in me when no one else would. He looked directly into the camera. If there's a kid watching this, feeling invisible, unheard, unwanted, don't wait for someone to open a door. Break it down. And if you can't build your own damn stage, that night, he walked through the back hallway of the Dolby Theater, past the paparazzi, past the glitz, and found a quiet spot near the loading dock. He took a deep breath and smiled, because for the first time in his life, the backstage finally felt like home.